high success rate with our adoptions, and it's in the contract. If you can't take care of the dog, or because things
don't
happen,
even start that process.
but you know, we'll bring the dog back. We'll take the back. We had a situation where a family adopted the dog, and then one of the family members got very, very sick, and they said, we don't think it's fair to this dog, and it was a pup.
Yeah.
And this is the only reason we can't keep him. They were dealing with cancer and a really bad thing. And then we had a case where the young couple split up, and neither one wanted the dog.
Oh, I feel like they would fight over the dog. Neither of them wanted.
And she had been...
Yeah, me and my wife would be fighting over the animals.
Yeah,
be like,
really.
oh, I want that one. No, that one's mine.
They're all mine.
And I had her
custody battle
for a month. I had her for several months as foster.
Weekend.
Because of the fighting in the house, then her name was Sylvia, and we renamed her to Ginny because KJ said, that's not a Sylvia, that's a Ginny. So she had stress issues, and she had urinary incontinence, and it was stress related.
Because she was hearing all that fighting
and so and dogs will mark, and they will also urinate on you, which is it's a respectful thing. We have to understand their culture, and so they turned her back in, and which was a good thing, because of those behavior problems. Any other rescue group, like a pound, would have put her down. And so I had a doggy door, and we trained her to use the doggy door immediately. I had one accident in the house because she learned to use the doggy door, and she was safe.
Yeah. So you just have to use a little proactivity.
A little common sense. Yeah. But
that's not so common anymore.
It isn't.
It really
isn't.
Okay, so let's move on a little bit. So I will research some of the free clinics in town, so get that information out to people. That
would be great.
So, and now, what are your dogs' names? I know you have two healers.
I have two blue, and they're both mixed breed dogs. I have Sissy, and somebody dumped her out in the country next to our house as about a 4 to 5 month old puppy. Criminal. I mean, and she was so traumatized that she literally would not go off the front porch for a year.
Wow.
She just stuck to us like glue. And then the other dog belonged to our neighbor, and they did not take care of her. And so she'd come over and play with Sissy, and I would give her, I'd give the dogs treats, because like coming to grandma's house, you know.
Yeah.
And then pretty soon she'd follow Sissy in the house. And this took months. I mean, before she was so afraid that it took months. And then she'd come in the house, and
the neighbors just didn't care.
They did not care.
Okay.
And
didn't even know it was
didn't even
missing?
know she was missing, because we lived right across the road from each other. So then I'd send her home when I'd feed my dogs, and she wasn't leaving. She was hanging around, and then she'd come in again in the evening, because I'd put the dogs out and then she'd come back in. So then I thought, well, she's obviously not getting enough to eat, so I'll feed her. You know, that was the
sucker.
Yeah. And then we'd feed her, and then I'd send her out at, like, go home now, Rio. And her name is Rio. Why she has that name? Because she's a girl. I don't know. So we'd send her home. Well, she wasn't going home. She was sleeping on the front porch. Aww. And we did not know that until one night my stepson left early to go to work, and there's Rio on the front porch. And it's a rotten, cold, windy, rainy night.
Oh, boy.
And there was that little dog. And she has real anxiety issues. She's real fearful of noises and sounds, and it's just heartbreaking. And then I have Zeke, who's my dachshund. He's my old guy. And
the one with
13th was his 1-year birthday with us.
Okay.
And then I have Callie Rose, who's a long-haired...
15 years old, right?
She's 15 years old. And then I have the new baby, and this is Abby. And we were contacted by this woman elderly woman. Her husband died, and she can't take care of the dog. She's like, she can't physically afford to feed it. She hadn't had medical care in a long, long time. So it was the ultimate act of love, and she loves this dog. And so I've had her about 6 weeks, and I met her at Wagner. She lived in Tahlequah, and I can't say it. It's heartbreaking. She cried, I cried all the way home because she gave this dog up.
Yeah.
She said,
what's best for the dog. Yeah.
She did what was best for the dog. And she's a delightful little dog. She's a little red dachshund, and we estimate her age at 10. She was found in Broken Arrow, and she'd been hit by a car, and someone turned her in to a rescue group, and that's how they got her.
Wow.
And she has anxiety, and we think it goes way back. And I talk to her mom all the time and let her know what's going on and how she's doing. And I've gone back and forth. Should we get together again, or would that be too traumatic for Abby?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it probably would, to see her mom and then take her away again.
Yeah.
So we decided to do that. So I have. We have, and my stepson and his wife live next door in the little cottage house, and they have 4 dogs.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
And all 4 of them are rescues.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Okay, so I want to move on. I want to give Sammy a shout out.
What?
Thank you for the lavender oil tip.
Hey.
So for an update out there, we have 2 7-month-old beagle puppies. And one of them has decided not to sleep through the night and get up at 2 in the morning and howling. And not needing to go, just howling because she wants out of her crate. And so Sammy gave me the tip on the lavender oil, so I started doing that. And high five, it's working so far.
So tell me about that.
So you just take lavender oil and dilute it a little bit,
The-
like with coconut oil. Yeah, like
The essential
oil.
Uh-huh.
which
And
I
you-
have in the house.
And it
Dilute
just
a
helps
little bit.
relax them a little bit
Rub
so
it
they
on your
sleep
hands,
better.
then rub it on their ears.
Yeah,
I'm going to try that with Abby
it
because
calms them down a little
It's
bit.
calming.
Yeah,
she barks. We know she's barking because Brian and June can hear her bark when we're gone. She's having anxiety.
Yeah.
So you just mix it equal parts with coconut oil?
It doesn't have to be equal. Like
just dilute it a little
Just
bit.
a little
Yeah.
bit,
Just a
and
little
then put
bit.
it on her ears.
Yep.
I'm going to do that.
I don't know if they breathe it in and it just calms them.
Yeah,
or-
and I mean they absorb it. I mean your skin
Yeah,
is
they
a
absorb it.
giant
That's
sponge.
true.
So
That's
yeah.
true.
especially on a
That's a
beagle.
great
They
tip.
have big ears.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big ears,
They're
big
fun.
surface area.
And really so do dachshunds for their size.
Okay, so do you guys know what bolting is?
No.
Okay, so you guys both you can take him out to your mom's and let Daisy run.
Yeah.
So you don't have to necessarily walk your dog that much, right?
Yeah.
And you got 5 acres, so you don't necessarily have to quote unquote walk him on a leash. Okay.
No.
Well, I live in a neighborhood, so I'm committed to walk. I walk them every day, sometimes twice a day, and so I'm walking dogs a lot because I have 4 of them.
And they have to be walked separately because they're
Yes.
all they have different needs.
Yeah, so I can walk one of the labs and the 2 beagle puppies at one time.
Molly
but-
just needs extra
And then
love.
this story about bolting happens to be, so I had the 2 puppies and Jackson, the big black lab, all around one wrist. So I just have all 3 leashes on one wrist and I'm holding them. Well, the puppies zigzag back and forth, right? So they get it all twisted up. So I'm about a mile into my walk, so I go, man, I'm all twisted up. So I go to take the leashes off my wrist and I'm unwinding them. Well, just so happens there's a lady walking, I think it was like a Shih Tzu or some little dog, and Jackson bolts. So I got him in my hand, and so he takes off running. So he's gone. He runs. He's running after this lady, and he's black. It's dark. He's 80 pounds. She's got to be scared to death. And so I run. I'm sprinting, and then there's 2 beagles running behind me. So I get up there. I apologize profusely. I get all the dogs separated, and I'm so sorry. I just dropped the leash, and she was scared. And then
Rightfully so.
yes, for sure. And then we're separate. We're about 5 foot apart. She goes, "You need to leash your dogs." I'm like, "The leash."
The leash is on
And then the F words start coming out of this little old grandma. I was like, "Oh my I'm so
goodness.
sorry." It just surprised me. I mean, I got some colorful words from little old. She looked like my grandmother.
She told you all about it.
That was shocking.
Yeah,
That's
it was. I
hilarious.
was surprised. I mean, and it has happened to me before where another guy that walks his dog frequently, we cross paths all the time, and one day his German Shepherd's here running right at us.
Like, hello.
Yeah, and so when you guys don't have to worry about this, but those of you out here, as much as it goes against your instinct, you should step in between. Even if it's a big dog, you gotta fight down your fear and get between your dog and the dog that's bolting towards you, because your dog is not stupid. It knows it's on a leash and you can't get away from that dog. So you got to set its mind at ease that you're going to protect him or her.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's my story it was last week that happened. It's happened. My dogs did it twice. So I dropped the leash just at the right time where it saw another dog, one time it was a squirrel.
Oh my goodness.
And it chased it it was 2 blocks ahead. Jackson was 2 blocks ahead of me. Because if he's running full speed and I'm running full speed, he's going to outpace me by a long ways. And it ended up, there was one house that doesn't have a fence, and that squirrel went in it. So Jackson's in somebody's backyard running around. So I finally got him, and we went about our business. But there's all sorts of adventures when you walk your dogs every day. One time we saw a coyote.
Oh.
It was about 30 yards away from us, staring at us, and Jackson's looking at it like, ooh.
Like, ooh, coyote.
He's kind of scared.
He's a big baby.
Yeah. If you know Jackson, he's very large, but he's still like a puppy. He's 2 years old. And he's like a big baby.
Isn't he like very submissive?
Yes, he's very submissive.
They don't know they're big and they don't know they're little.
Yeah.
Those dachshunds are absolutely fearless.
Oh, I know.
They have but my son always says that they're tenacious to the point of stupidity.
Yeah.
Because to go into a tunnel, if you know anything about badgers, or even a cornered rat, they can be vicious.
Yeah.
But Abby is fearless, and Sissy did not want her in her space, and she growled at her, and that little dog got up on her hind legs and put her paws up on Sissy's face and just chewed on her.
Oh my goodness.
And it was like, I was concerned for Sissy.
Like,
she's a big dog.
The only other thing I had for us was, since I know you do the fresh food, I thought we could just discuss the fresh food and our experiences with it. And I'll kind of start. Background is about 2 years ago, we had a lab, our female lab that's 6 years old, had terrible skin allergies, like was itching all the time, and she was all bloated, and I was like, we got to do something. So I started cooking on my own food, and immediately the inflammation her bloating went away, and then just started noticing less and less itching as I continued to feed her fresh food. And then, oh my goodness, them dogs' coats are so shiny.
So soft.
Yeah, and the hair is really soft, and I'm not going back. Now, I did start using, what is it, the tube in the tube?
The Fresh Pet?
Yeah, I started supplementing with that just because I cook food, and I have 4 dogs. I'm cooking every 4 days a batch of dog food, and it gets old after a while. So I started supplementing with the Fresh Pet. Mm-hmm. So the homemade that I make stretches longer. So what do you use on the fresh food?
I had the same experience. I had a dachshund that had skin issues, terrible. So I made her. That was Betsy, my first one. And then when we lived in Montana, we had all this wild meat.
Oh yeah.
And so we were making my own dog food because it was cheaper. And those dogs just did great. Well, then when I moved to Texas, I was really poor and I couldn't afford it. But I had to go back. So with the same thing with 5 dogs,
Yeah.
I can't keep enough homemade dog food in the house.
Yeah.
If I had more space, I would make it up and put it in the freezer.
Right, ahead of time.
But
and
I
just get a
can't
supply
do
built
it.
up.
Do it and then do it that way. But so I do Fresh Pet, and I went online recently. There's a couple of websites that rate dog foods. Tractor Supply sells a Tractor Supply brand. It's called For Nature, I think.
Okay, and it's
For Health.
And is it similar to Fresh Pet?
It's a dry dog food, but they also have canned, and they have canned and they have dry, and it's rated 5 stars.
Okay, and is it just less processed, or
It's less processed. It's the ingredients, like it's not chicken byproducts. Chicken byproducts can be feathers.
right?
So
Most of it comes from a rendering plant.
and it can come from a rendering plant, which is dead
Out on the
animals.
road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
roadkill. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I buy a bag of that, and that's what I give my big dogs. But I supplement it with my own homemade dog food, and I do it. I mean, I could probably do the whole, because it's rated a 5, and there's a vet that rates this dog food, and so I think he's credible. But they just like it better.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like it's like. Can you imagine if we had to eat
Something dry
like
and
oatmeal or whatever, cold
dry cereal with no milk.
Yeah, every single
Every
day
day.
for the rest of your life.
Ugh.
And
Oh yeah, my dogs gobble it up. I mean, it's just
they
like
do. And then, but I do Fresh Pet strictly for the dachshunds.
Okay,
And
so they get straight pet.
they
Fresh
get
Pet.
straight Fresh Pet. And the reason I do that is because it's the soft, and I've been buying the bag because just for a time thing. I was getting it in the loaf, but I had to cut it
You
up
have
for
to
those
cut it every time,
dachshunds
yeah.
and stuff, and weigh it out. And this way I can just measure it. We got it all figured out. And because they all they're old, they don't, Callie's got teeth problems. Zeke has only 9 teeth. It's just better for him.
Well, when I first started, I would use just a large mixing bowl and use a wooden spoon and mix all this up.
Yeah,
And then
me too.
Sammy gave me the bright idea of using a
5-gallon bucket.
5-gallon bucket with one, those paint stirrers
That's
that
a
you
great
hook onto the
idea.
drill. So I would make up more and mix. I mix all that up. And like I said, a 5-gallon bucket for me lasts about 4 days.
Yeah.
Because you've got bigger dogs.
Well, and then I noticed with Molly, who's the 6-year-old lab, that she needs as much food as Jackson, who's 80 pounds, which is interesting.
Which is interesting. Yeah,
Yes,
that
it's
is.
not like she's mothering or milk production or anything like that, but
She's just a
she
lady.
just need more.
It's
Because I was noticing when I was feeding them both the same, and Jackson was maintaining his weight, and I started to see her ribs a little bit.
yes.
So I upped both of their food a little bit.
Isn't she kind of anxious?
She's got anxiety
Because if you
issues,
think
yeah.
about it, when you have anxiety or whatever, and you're like fidgety and like all that stuff, your body's burning energy.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So
Sammy.
she's.
The hardest part about making.
It's in your brain there. Sammy. I didn't correlate that.
I hadn't thought about that either. But is knowing how much to give them.
Yeah, you
'Cause
gotta
they
kinda-
like it.
You gotta,
Yes.
they would just eat and eat and eat and eat.
They would.
Yeah.
And Dr. Baker said, because when we got Sissy as a puppy that had been dumped out, we didn't know how long she'd been there because she'd been across the road under some abandoned buildings. And she said, well, canines are programmed to eat whenever there's food available, they eat it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they may not have
Because
it
they're
again.
scavengers.
They're scavengers.
Yeah.
And so we're just scavenging, and so they'll eat and eat and eat. And
Yeah,
that's
so you
okay.
can't just leave it out. And
No,
let
you
them
can't.
graze on it. No.
Yeah.
Because then that was stored fat, and they would live on that until the food became available again. And so we're messing with their evolution too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
At my house, you can't even leave any food on the counter.
Like a cantaloupe.
Oh.
Jackson
Yeah.
ate a whole cantaloupe.
And a whole papaya. All that was left was the little
funny.
seeds from the papaya when we got home from church.
And I
the other
do you do fruit ever in your food? Do you
Yes,
do fruit?
yeah. So like sometimes I'll like see if there's anything that's like not rotten, but like maybe the kids won't eat because the
Right.
outside's brown or something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so
I have done apples.
yes,
And I've done
I'll put a
watermelon.
and I'll put a little bit of greens in it, like if we have
Spinach.
seeds. Yeah,
Yeah, I do too, and green beans.
yeah.
I do. I do a lot of green beans because green beans are cheaper.
Yeah,
And they're easier to work with. But I really, if I didn't have to make a living, yet,
right.
there's just so many things I would like to do for my dogs. Different, I would strictly feed them my own food. It's actually less expensive than you think
Yeah,
to
it
make
is.
your own food.
Yeah.
And I do use a little oatmeal in mine. Do you do that?
No, but I do is I mild, like really slow roast 2 whole chickens, and then I'll pull all the meat off of the bones, and then I grind it up really fine, and then I put in some raw grass-fed hamburger, and then I put in some cans of pumpkin puree.
Yes.
And then whatever greens and fruits that we have, if I have some frozen blueberries sometimes, and then just mix it all up and put it in the freezer in containers.
Yeah.
So with the raws in there, from what I've read several books about it. Leave it in the freezer for 3 days, and that kills all the bacteria for the raw meat.
From the raw meat.
Yes.
That's a good.
Then you can feed it to them. Dogs have a stronger stomach than us as far as bacteria goes.
They do.
So it doesn't have to be 100% bacteria free, but you definitely don't want it teeming with bacteria.
No,
so
that's true.
you can kill it in the freezer. So.
That's a good point.
Fun fact.
Yeah,
Fun fact.
that is. Yeah.
Have you read any of Dr. Becker's books?
I don't know. I read.
She wrote a book about.
No, it's a woman. No, I
fresh
haven't.
pet. Yeah, she's a. I guess you would term her a holistic vet in Chicago, Illinois.
Okay.
And she wrote a book about raw food diets.
I've read. I think it's Dr. Fox.
Okay.
In fact, he has a veterinary column in the Tulsa World several times a week. And it's been really great. His website is really awful, though.
It's outdated or something, or what?
It's cluttered.
Okay.
He has so much information on there, and it's all in just the topics. He's written about so many things.
It's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming.
Well, Dr. Becker's is kind of like that.
And there's just
I subscribe to her blog, and so she'll send an email about a topic, and you learn something.
So it's all that. Then you can catalog the ones that you want to save.
Yeah.
But I just, the older I get, and the more animals
more
I
seasoned,
have,
more
yes,
seasoned.
That's it. More experience.
Yes, there we go.
The more I realize we just treat our animals so bad. Our service animals.
You're talking about as a society, not you.
But
not me. But
I mean, as a humans, and then there's so much more that these soldiers that are coming back and the things that go on in these other countries and how they treat their animals. It's just heartbreaking, and So I was reading an article about euthanasia, and this vet was a proponent of it, and her take on it was it's crueler to ignore these animals and abuse them than to put them down. And I have kind of a hard time with that yet. My thinking is why we need to be preventing this in the first place and not having to put these animals down. And I read an article too about cats. 90% of the cats that are born in this country end up as strays.
Jeez.
Only 10% end up in loving homes.
That's a lot of cats.
That's a lot of cats.
And think of how many cats. It's a lot of cats. And then they reproduce so fast.
They reproduce so fast.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, so there's a lot of education and letting people know what's going on. And anything else to go over? I can't think of anything.
Not that I can think of.
What's Daisy up to?
The other day she pooped in the house.
Uh-oh.
I know.
What?
I know.
Was she left in there or what? Or is it just a...
I think it was like a freak thing. No,
Okay.
It wasn't sick. But I have a almost 2-year-old, right? And so, when he poops, no, he didn't. He tells you he didn't, but he did. And so we changed him, and then it's like I kept smelling it, and I was looking everywhere, and we just kept thinking it was Eli. No, we finally found it.
Really?
Yeah. And she acts so sorry,
Oh, I'm sure.
Because she is. So it's like, it's so bad. I mean, people are going to judge you for what you do and what you don't do. But I mean, anytime she poops in the house, she never gets in trouble just because she feels bad enough. We don't need to make her feel worse.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And that is such a human response to treat them with, they don't have a concept of morality like humans do. They do things because it's what they've evolved doing. And so to punish them is not the right way to correct them.
I don't think so, no.
I found some nuggets in our closet from the beagles. Yeah.
Oh, Dawson's. If it's cold and rainy or snowy or it's just too hot or
they just feel like
they got to be just right to go outside.
It's got to be just right. And Zeke's really bad about it. He'll go out and come in and poop.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah. And I don't know what that's about, but
I don't know.
but with all those other dogs around, it could be
a dominance thing.
And he's the only male.
Yeah.
And
that sounds.
And he's
right.
He's going to show everybody that, hey, watch this. I'm just going to poop inside
and he doesn't
show you that I can do it.
Well, and where
he's an old man.
Yeah,
yes, but you know where he's doing it is by my desk.
Oh.
And see, he likes 2 or 3 times a day when I'm not in the office, he'll come and look at me with these big eyes, and then he looks towards the office. We're supposed to go in there and sit in the office, and I'm supposed to work.
He needs some attention.
He loves that.
That's
to lay
your
by
time.
my feet, that's his special time with me. And so he's pooping around the desk because he's telling those other dogs, this is
Stay
my
away.
spot.
Yeah.
Makes
I
sense.
think.
Yeah.
And so because I've been sick and I haven't been in the office much, but I've been sitting in the chair. But their routine, I don't care.
Daisy's got a routine.
You don't
my
vary
dogs
it. Yeah,
we have to have a routine. Or
we do.
We're in trouble.
You got 4 of those
Yeah.
babes.
And it's just now because they're all so different in size and temperament, and it's just. KJ said, we really need more dogs. We don't have enough dogs.
Yeah.
We keep accidentally, we follow a border collie group on Facebook because they post videos all
they're
the
so
time.
fun.
And I keep seeing puppies, and I
Oh, no.
You want a puppy.
but I
But
don't.
You got a little one.
I'm
on
about
the
to have
way.
another baby.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
There'll be another one come when
I
the
know.
timing's right,
I know, but
and
they're so
Daisy
cute.
can have a brother or sister.
And I really feel like she would really enjoy one.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like
she would.
I feel like she would.
When our border collie, Samoyed Cross, she was about maybe close to 3 when we got the lab. She just was in heaven having a puppy.
Yeah.
She would, in fact, she had when Target had those little dogs, what is his name? The little dog with the red eye.
Oh, he's still there.
Yeah,
Is
he's
it
still
Jack
there.
Russell?
Well,
Is that
whatever
right?
he was,
I don't know.
they had.
I don't know.
Yes,
They had
like a terrier.
Some kind of
yes,
terrier.
it is. They had little. They were doing a promotion and they were giving away little. What was his name? Ike or something. But anyway, they were giving away these little stuffed dogs, little toys. She took that and she mothered that till it was totally gone. It just fell apart from love.
My Molly, my 6-year-old lab, she had a Snoopy doll that she would do that with, and all the other stuffed animals got torn to shreds.
Except
But that
for
one
Snoopy was
loved.
yes.
The very first toy we ever got Daisy was the night before we went to go pick her up. We got her dog food, a collar with her name on it, and 2 toys. One was a stuffed toy, and the other one my husband picked out, which he still doesn't really like to this day.
Yeah,
but it's a cow stuffed animal, and it's still alive, and
Yes.
it's not
Hasn't
torn
been
up
shredded.
at all.
it's their love toy.
She like cuddles that one.
Isn't that funny how they do that? And see, none of my dogs like toys except Rio, the neighbor, the rehome dog, and she doesn't wreck them either. She just loves them. She pulls them up and she lays by them in her chair, in her spot.
They're her babies.
They're her babies, and it's like, oh, she probably would have made a really good mama, but we have enough dogs.
Yeah.
Spay and neuter.
Spay and neuter.
Can't say it enough.
All right. Well, we're at an hour long. That's our longest podcast ever.
Longest podcast. Yep.
Sometimes we get at about 15 to 18 minutes, and we're like, "What else we talk about?" But
That was
when there's
pretty
3 of us, we just keep going, huh?
good. Yeah.
What? We would love to have you back anytime that you are available. We had a lot of fun.
Oh, I had a great time.
Yeah.
I think it was. And if we have a topic, we can do a little research.
Sure.
There's
Yeah.
just so much out there to talk about.
I know.
And
That's why we started this.
Yeah.
Because we love talking about it, dogs and our own dogs and just the general population of dogs, any topics.
Yeah, I agree.
All
So,
right.
yeah, I'd love to do it again.
Sweet.
All right. Awesome.
All right, everybody. We'll sign off and everybody have a great day.
Thanks for asking me.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Anytime.